Hey guys, in this video I want to explain to you clairvoyance in a little bit more detail so that you can understand how your medium might be seeing things from the spirit world. Okay, so when we're talking about mediumship, clairvoyance or someone being clairvoyant, it's one of the more common expressions that we hear. But people don't always understand exactly what that entails. Now, there are several different ways of communicating with spirit. I have explained them in a previous episode of my podcast. And if you're not familiar with all the different ways, I'm going to put a link in the description box attached here so that you can listen to that and maybe get some idea of the different ways that mediums can connect with spirit. But today I want to talk about clairvoyance a little bit more, okay? So it does mean something. Clair means clear and voyance means seeing. Okay, so someone who's clairvoyant, they see clearly or they see the energy of spirit. So it's just like a clear vision, if you like. Okay, so they have an extra layer to their vision in that they're seeing energy as opposed to just physical things. Okay, so I am clairvoyant. Now that doesn't always mean that someone is going to appear beside me when I'm talking to spirit, okay? Either beside me or beside you, okay? Whether it's in person or online or anything, okay? Now I do still see spirit, I do. When I was a little girl, I probably would have seen them, more often or whatever. But as I developed, my clairsentience, which is feeling them a little bit more, a little bit of clairaudience in different ways, okay, it's not necessary for them to always appear. And it would be more common personally, and I can only talk about my personal experience, it would be more common personally for me to see spirit like in a physical form when I'm on stage and doing mediumship in front of an audience. Because in that arena, you only have a couple of minutes to get the message across to the person. Okay, I can see your dad here in front of me. He's wearing a Trilby style hat. He's got a brown sports jacket on, whatever it might be. And he's showing me his braces that have an Irish flag on them or something, okay? So you only have a very short time in order to get that message across to somebody. Therefore, it's important for you to see all of this. Now, when a spirit shows you a vision of themselves, when they manifest a vision in front of you, they can only stay, maybe 30 seconds, 60 at tops. It really is like they show you on television. It's a very fleeting thing because they can't maintain that level of energy or presence for a long period of time. So when you're having a one-on-one reading with a medium, okay, they don't necessarily see your loved one for all of that period of time. Okay, so what they do is they use whatever I have in my head, my own reference points. And I've brought some here today to show you. So if you've had a reading with me in the past or seen me working, maybe you've seen me on stage or whatever, you'll hear me refer to different things and I might be slightly off. And this is why, okay? I want to show you this, okay? This is a prayer book, okay? I am Catholic and, all my family were Catholic. This is a prayer book, okay? And there's all my grandmother's, my great-grandmother's bits and pieces. So I often talk to people about, books or prayer books and them having little pictures inside because this is my great-grandmother's prayer book. Okay, now she died in the 1970s. I don't have any memories of her, but I have this prayer book and I keep it up on my dresser in my bedroom all the time. Okay, so sometimes when spirit are trying to get across to me in a reading that, that there was a prayer book, maybe there was a little address book, maybe there was a book that they left on their bedside locker, because I keep this one on my bedside locker, okay? They'll show me this because this is my reference point. So if I say to somebody, and it has happened, in a reading, like I'm seeing a little prayer book that belonged to your loved one and it's got all these little pictures inside. which this prayer book does, okay? It's got holy pictures, it's got pictures of family, it's got little prayer cards that were gifted to my grandmother. They're all in here, little messages that were handwritten out. I'm not going to show you this, but on the other side of this card, there's a little handwritten message that was written to my great-grandmother, okay? So this is my reference point. So if someone comes through, if your loved one comes through from spirit and they're trying to show me maybe a prayer book, maybe a little wallet where they used to keep all their little photos, their memory cards, whatever, all the little gift cards that they were given over the years, this is my great-grandmother's. Her name was Ellen Keating and she lived in Dundrum in County Tipperary, okay? And she died when I was very young. But this is my reference point, okay? And this one here came up in a reading not too long ago, okay? It came up about a little box and I described it like a tobacco box. Now for the loved one, it wasn't necessarily a tobacco box, but it was a little box that they used to keep, that they keep some, you know, keepsakes, if you like, of their loved ones in this little box. And this is the box that I saw, okay? This is, it's you know, it's battered. My great-grandfather used to carry this around all the time. It was his tobacco box. And I can't tell you, thankfully it's not smell-o-vision because, oh, there's a horrible smell of this, okay? But this is an old Holborn Royal Silver Jubilee commemoration tin, okay, and a Royal Silver Jubilee, but yet my granddad was Irish, lived in Tipperary in Ireland. But nonetheless, somebody may have brought this home for him as a gift from the UK, because I know my granduncles both served in the Air Force in the United Kingdom during the Second World War. Okay, they both survived, thankfully. One was a pilot and one was a gunner. Gunner, I think you call it, where you have a gun on a plane. I think they call it a gunner. Anyway, that's what he did. And tail gunner, I think, was the expression that was always used in our house. But this was his tobacco tin. And he brought this everywhere. Okay, so somebody obviously brought him this tin home on some silver jubilee. And he always used to fill it up with his tobacco and he carried it around in his shirt pocket. Okay, always. He always had it with him. Now, he died in the 1970s. Okay, this is a tobacco tin and he did get cancer and he had part of his jaw removed from chewing tobacco. Okay, unfortunately, that's what happens. We know this. This also belonged to him. Okay, this is a little screwdriver and for some reason he used to carry it around all of the time. He was just one of these people that would always try and fix things or whatever, and this screwdriver was his and he always had it in his back pocket. My mother tells me that it was her memory and she gave me this. Unfortunately, I don't come from a wealthy family. There's no big inheritance for me to get, but I have these little keepsakes and to me these are worth more. And when I say to people sometimes, you know, if I'm seeing them or they're coming to a show or whatever, I say, bring something with you that was important to your loved one. Okay. Now, I also have this, which came from my grandmother's house, and it is a little ornament of an Irish cottage. But this has a load of childhood memories for me. Okay. Because it was always in our house at home. My grandmother's house, then my mother had it. My mother gave it to me not too long ago. But this is something that I would never bring if I was going to a show, okay? I always try and bring something with me because it brings the energy of your loved one with them, okay? And this is something that I don't bring because yes, it's an ornament. Yes, it holds lots of memories. But because it's an ornament, the amount of times that either my grandmother or my mother or whatever picked this up and held it during their lifetime would be minimal. Okay, you take a feather duster, you dust around it, whatever. Okay, so it's not something that would hold massive amounts of energy. Yet, if I'm doing a reading for somebody and they have something in their house that came from their home house, maybe a grandparent, a parent, whatever, this is what I see. Because this to me is my grandparents' house. It's also my home house. You know, this is the reference point. But if I want to bring something to a show with me that would have, you know, somebody's energy in it, it would be more likely this, a little screwdriver, okay? Because my great granddad always had this in his pocket. Therefore, it's going to contain a lot more energy. Okay, to be fair, I'd probably bring the tobacco box. Okay, because I know he used this every single day. Okay, and with my grandmother, she always had her prayer book on her, so I would bring that. Okay, so when I'm reading for somebody, if somebody's talking about a little keepsake, maybe a little box, maybe they had a tobacco box, in my head I see my great granddad's tobacco box. Okay, if they're talking about an ornament or some belonging that you brought from their house after their passing to your own house so that you can keep the memories, then I will see the ornament that for me is the memory of my grandmother's and my mother's house. And if they're talking about a book, an address book, a prayer book, maybe even a book that they were reading or a book that they used to keep or something that they used to keep on their bedside locker, because I keep this on my bedside locker all of the time, that's what I will see in my head. So it's not always an exact replica. Okay, I can see and I do see, but I want to explain to you that it's not always an exact replica of what you have or what you're thinking of that I see in my head. But they will use reference points. They'll say, okay, well, there is a book. Okay, there is an ornament that she took from my house, and it's sentimental value. Okay, or there is a little trinket box, that I used to hold in great store, that they now keep and remember me by. So clairvoyance isn't always seeing exactly the person or exactly the item, but it's them showing you what you need to say in order to get the message across to the loved one. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So clairvoyance is clear seeing, but not necessarily just seeing what your loved one looked like. It's sometimes seeing the things that are important, the things that they want you to see. And in equal store, it's not always just something that I have, physically here. So my grandparents' cottage isn't in the family anymore, even though I pass it daily. It's not in the family anymore. It was sold some years ago. And, sometimes when we're talking about the home house, when they're talking about their house or the house that they lived in, I will see my grandparents' cottage in my head. Okay. And sometimes, and it happened with me there the other day, I was reading for somebody and, it came through that I saw my granddad. I saw him standing up quite straight, even though in the last couple of years of his life, my granddad used to hunch over as old men do. And of course, he was ill in the last year of his life. But, I saw my granddad as he was when he was younger, standing up straight, because my granddad was over 6 foot. He was about 6'1", 6'2" when he stood up straight. And because of his military days, he was in the Irish Defence Forces, in the military police. And he used to stand up really straight, from his military days. And I just knew by the stance, by seeing my granddad, by seeing the stance of this person, I was able to say to this person, your dad's here. He was in some service, whether it's the military or the police or something, and he's here, and, he had a great posture about him, given his training and everything. And she was like, yes, that's exactly who I'm here to speak to. Okay. Now, I know I'm talking about my granddad, but my granddad was my father figure. If you've been following me here before, you will have heard me say that my granddad was the love of my life. Okay. I was raised by a single mother, my granddad's daughter, and he was just the dad to us. Okay. So he was so important in my life. Okay. So these are the things that we sometimes see, and we have to translate that into a message for you. I hope that gives you some insight into how it can work for mediumship and for mediums. Again, I can only talk from my own experience. We all work in different ways. But just to give you some insight as to what's going on in my head when I'm reading for you. Okay, thanks for listening, guys. I'm sorry if I went on too long. But I will see you in the next video. And until then, take care and stay safe.